Right, mate. Well,
another day, another dollar, Hugh.
Another episode. Right, well, I don't actually know what number it is. I reckon
We're in the 80s, aren't we, surely?
got to be close to the 80s.
Numbers are great, by the way. Keep liking and subscribing.
Yeah, I mean, I never know.
Keep sharing it with your peers as well. That's one of the things I've had a couple of notes on. Is like, I shared this with this was shared with me by so and so. So yeah, if you are listening and you like what you hear, please share it with your friends in the studios and the agencies. Yeah,
I bumped into Lloyd Daniel, very good friend very good creative at Neverland, and he said he never listens.
Well, at least he's honest.
No, but there is a story. And then he met a friend of his from Newcastle, and he said, I don't think his friend's involved in advertising at all, but said, "Oh, Lloyd, I listened to this thing. It's really good. It's called Behind the Billboard." And then Lloyd has now started listening and has said he's now addicted.
Oh, wow.
So
that's really nice.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Hi, Lloyd.
Hi, Lloydie. So today we have got Aidan McClure.
Yes.
Aidan McClure runs, he's got his own agency called Wonderhood Studios, who do brilliant work. But Aidan's got a brilliant history. I've never really crossed paths with him. I crossed paths with his partner Laurent Simon a few times. So
we did some work with him years and years ago. Adam and Eve years. So
I think that's going to be mentioned today.
Yep, bit of front row stuff.
It's all about a brilliant football team, isn't it?
Well, it's about a brilliant execution at the football stadium.
You know, he's a massive gooner.
Yeah, I'm aware. And listen, it's
hey, all's fair in love and war.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And American politics, apparently.
Oh, God, don't. Right, shall I go and get him?
Yeah.
Aidan McClure, CCO and co-founder of Wonderhood Studios. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's an honour. Amazing.
It's lovely to have you on. Like all our guests, so we know everyone's busy. I imagine you're busy. You have your own agency, so thank you for coming. We're going to talk about your billboards today, which I did spot last night. You know, you're going through a day, you're going, football. Oh, yeah, football. There's
quite a lot of football.
There's quite a lot of football.
I thought that as well, yeah. Not intentionally.
So for all the listeners, Aidan does loads of ideas about everything.
We haven't just picked this isn't a football debate.
No, it's not a football
You haven't
special.
stumbled across a football podcast.
No, but it is actually...
Weirdly, football is a bit of a theme of my career, though. But it's interesting.
We will we'll try and pepper it with other stuff. And the fact that you're an Arsenal fan,
you're an Arsenal fan,
Spurs fan. Why is it we seem to have so many gooners on at the moment?
Is there a higher proportion of gooners in the advertising industry? On the successful side of the advertising business, there's a lot, doesn't
Good question. And Chelsea, right? Anyway, so before we get into that, some Aidan facts. Yeah.
Aidan facts.
Aidan has created award-winning work at Abbott Mead Vickers, Adam and Eve, BBC Creative, and of course at Wonderhood Studios, his own agency. This work includes the Bear and Hair campaign. I watched that again last night. A little tear in my eye, wishing there was some ads like that. That won a Cannes Gold Lion for effectiveness. And there's also BBC One's Christmas campaign, The Supporting Act. That was one of the BBC's most successful commercials ever. There's loads of other stuff, but those are just two we picked out. Second interesting Aidan fact, Aidan got onto the Watford Copywriting course by pretending to be the Queen. He wrote letters every day to Tony Cunningham for a month.
How did you find that out?
I don't know how he found it.
Hugh's pretty good at this.
That's amazing.
Updating him on the latest goings on in the soap opera that's the Royal Family. It was something like there was one weekend where Tony said there's one space left on the course, and you went at it. I love
How
this.
do you know that?
I don't know. I read it somewhere.
Give us that.
I don't think I've ever told anyone that.
You have to interrupt Aidan facts for this backstory behind that.
Oh, it was a bleak time, actually. So I applied for the Watford course. I was told that it was the course and it's very hard to get onto. And I went and did the interview. I took this terrible portfolio of work to it.
We all did.
Which was just puns on ketchup, I think.
Yeah.
And then Tony just ripped into all of us, actually, and was like, he ended the interview by saying, "None of you are good enough. So what I'm going to do is over Christmas set you a task that I need to be completed by January the 1st. And you're like, oh my God.
Great.
There goes Christmas.
Tony. Cheers, pal. Sets you up for the industry though, doesn't it?
Very much so, yeah. So I sort of got back and I was living with my mum. And I still remember to this day sitting in her kitchen, and it was a really gloomy day, and me just head in my hands going, what am I going to do with my future? And then I sort of had this moment of inspiration or madness or whatever you want to call it, which was, I'm just going to pretend to be the Queen and then write to Tony every single day. And I got an ink pen. I made a royal seal. I should say that the brief for Christmas was market the royal family to me. Make me fall back in love with the royal family.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
That's
quite an important bit.
Good. At least we got that.
It wasn't that random.
Anyway, I
know what I should do.
I'll be the Queen.
Yeah. No. So I set up this thing that 1,000 lucky people got selected by the Queen to receive a handwritten letter, and then just wrote this mad sort of, it was loosely related to what was going on in the news, just sort of diary to Tony. And I never knew whether he received these letters.
Did he not ignore?
He didn't say anything.
He's a fucker.
So I sent him,
looking down on us, Tony.
I say this guy 30 letters that I'd sweated over every single day, and had no idea if he received it. And then I just got this letter back from Watford saying you've been accepted. So I assume that he must have got them.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because I think he's really, bless his soul. He's not anymore,
it's so sad.
So we literally ended Helen Rhodes' show with talked about Tony.
Yeah.
But he had that skill of really making you want it even more, and being quite angry.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And this is like a really good thing, rather than angry, oh, fuck you, I'm not applying. It was like angry.
It made you work harder to get it, yeah.
But
did
you?
Was the master at that? Yeah,
I mean, that you could probably do a whole podcast on those letters, couldn't you?
Yeah.
This is December the 23rd.
Yeah.
Right. So one more fact.
Two more facts.
Two more. Well, okay. Yeah.
Aidan facts part 2.
Aidan can play the violin very well, nearly as well as Stefan Grappelli. I found that out. And a little known fact: you scored a hat trick for Arsenal when you beat Spurs at Wembley to lift the FA Cup.
What?
That's a lie. It's just to wind you to up.
Hang on a minute. So the violin thing. Do you know? You must know someone to know that.
What I did.
You hate this, don't you?
Yeah, I learned a really deep dive last night.
Double violated and here. You got the copywriting thing and the violin. How do you fucking know this?
I'm a journalist. But no, there was someone I know told me all these things. I'll tell you after if you want. Over a pint, maybe.
Because I've just bought the Stefan Grappelli How to Play Like Stefan Grappelli
my God,
thing
you're joking.
from Amazon.
He's in your Amazon basket. He's hacking you.
So I've sort of taken upon myself this year to try and learn more about this
Seriously?
guy. So that's why it's quite freaky, this, because it's like you're looking at my Amazon data or something.
Isn't it? So good. There is actually a podcast called, which is based on people's the things they just bought on Amazon, isn't there? What's in the basket? Anyway, yeah. Right, we're digressing already. We're getting a bit mad. We've got to ask you, how are you? You obviously seem very well. What's the Wonderhood thing going on at the moment? Is there any vibe? Something exciting? Are you getting ready for Crimbo? Are you on pitch lists? What's your latest?
Yeah, I mean, it's always exciting at Wonderhood. Lots going on. We're sort of in a slightly weird limbo period at the moment where we've done a lot of pitches and we're waiting. And that sort of waiting period, holding pattern, and
they're all going to land at once. Then
there's a bit of that, and there's a sort of not quite knowing your destiny. Yeah. I mean, there needs to be a few things sort of happen. So it's very exciting, but also a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So that's going on. As you guys know, Wonderhood is kind of split in two halves. We do branding. We do advertising and branding, etc. And we make television shows as well. So the TV guys have got all sorts of exciting projects, one of which is about to launch in January, which is called Fear Clinic, which is all about phobias. And it's, I think, a 5-part series about this clinic in Amsterdam where people go and within 24 hours, through a combination of taking a pill and being exposed in a very extreme way to their phobia, are cured.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
This
and
sounds
the
great.
footage.
Can we do some posters?
What kind of pill?
I think it's something quite simple. It's not dark.
Right.
It's something that just slightly rewires your brain as you're being exposed. No.
Hallucinogen.
But
That's tomorrow, mate.
but like all good sort of stories, it's got highs, lows, funny bits. It's got a problem at the start and then a lovely resolve, and it's wonderful. It's really, really wonderful.
Nice.
Lawyers involved. Is it okay?
There's always lawyers involved on the TV side of things.
It's good.
They really push it. So,
That's really exciting. I didn't know that. And how do you walk in the morning? Is it like left is TV and is right advertise? Are you actually split apart, or are you just
no? We're all jumbled up.
You're all jumbled up.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Right,
So
right.
that's the whole ethos of Wonderhood. We believe in neighbourhoods of different thinkers. David Abraham, who had the vision for the company, calls it positive adjacency. So by putting two quite different brains next to each other, you get this really lovely sort of haphazard, where something just happens.
Brilliant.
And obviously that was quite hard in COVID, but
Yeah.
now we're all back and rubbing shoulders. You get all that really lovely stuff that happens in between, and that sort of neighbourhood thing we extend to, the Soho neighbourhood we live in, and we have all these little projects with different businesses in Soho, and that in itself creates little rubs and
Is that
positive
the coffee
attention.
Is that the coffee thing we're going to
The
talk about
coffee
later?
thing, yeah, and the school, and the soup kitchen, like all of these little things, that
We're going to be here till Christmas, aren't we? It's going to be quite a lot. Right, okay, we better start.
With the billboard at the end of my street.
You know all about this, so tell us. So it looks like
there's
it could
two.
be your street at the end of obviously Wonderhood Street, or your street.
Well, yeah, I suppose both are my street, in the sense that the first one is on Pentonville Road. So I ride into work. I try and ride in every day. It's a lovely time to listen to Behind the Billboard, actually. And I cross this really scary road, Pentonville, which, has lots of buses and cars. But you are afforded an opportunity to turn your head to the right and look up at this really wonderful billboard. It's a huge, great big thing.
Sorry, Dan, I'll pass it.
Which is kind of like a 6-sheet, but massive.
Yeah.
And it stares down Pentonville Road. So the cars driving up get this amazing view of this thing, and it's lit up in lights. And quite regularly, there's really good posters on it. Simple, bold things. And
Is it digital?
It's digital, yeah. And this one is, I think it's not motion though. I think it's
static roadside. Roadside, yeah. It's a storm site.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And this one is for the King's Trust. I think it is the King's Trust. It was the Prince's Trust, but now obviously he's been given a promotion. It's the King's Trust. And if I'm honest with you, I had to do a lot of squinting. There is a lovely sort of thought on it which says, "Fuel my future for the price of a coffee." And the King's Trust is all about youth opportunity. So there's quite a nice sort of making a problem relevant to the audience. I think my only thing, and I think this is such an important thing around billboards, is just knowing your audience and knowing the site. And I think we're all guilty of this. We never go and look at our work up. And this is a classic example that I think if the team went and looked at this, they would go, "Oh my God, you cannot read half of this ad."
Yeah.
And what a big waste of money that is.
And that's the biggest thing. We, Grand Visual over the last 20 years, we've done lots of, we've worked together, which we'll talk about soon, but reversioning original artworks for the different shapes and sizes of the screen. It's an art form in itself.
Yeah.
This looks like it's been reversioned from a format that's non-portrait and not a large format for this screen, and it could have been better if they'd simply just done the mock-up and put it on the actual a photo of the screen. So is it legible from where this photo's taken?
Yeah.
It would have been better. And it's one of the things that we talked to Nils Leonard about on Uncommon when they're presenting the outdoor work. They're always mocking it up on
in
live.
situ.
In situ.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have just.
It's a layout issue, not.
He could have gone.
Copywriting's fine, right?
Fuel My Future for for £2.80.
Yeah.
but to make it fucking big. I remember, sorry, just digressing. Well, not digressing. I remember when Adam and I worked at BBH on the Lynx effect, and we had a lenticular ad, which a very attractive woman would give you a wink if you walked past it. And we had the Lynx effect quite small and in the corner. And they're going, you're going to make it bigger. And we go, no, it doesn't make bigger. And it was like, it became this fucking massive thing. And then they said, if you don't make it bigger, we're not fucking running it. And we're going, right. And then Ben Fennell, who was he was actually on the account, and he said, just put it all the way along the bottom. And we were so broke of it. And then we saw it and we went, oh my God, if we'd have done the way we had it and the layout, you wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
And it was only when we saw it big, and we went, oh fucking hell, thank God. It's bad, isn't it?
So many discussions with clients around logo site. I mean, it's almost a cliche in our industry. And it's because people aren't putting it in context. And actually sometimes, I mean, probably quite regularly, the creatives are wrong in the sense that they're not thinking about it in situ as well. So, I mean, as I said, we're all guilty of it. And, I don't think we get down enough to look at stuff, but I know media companies now have sites where you can actually just pop down and check it out.
Or preview.
Or preview, yeah.
And the other thing was Vicky Ross, who came on our show, specifically one of the things we really liked, what Vicky's doing is her a copy safari is called, where you walk around a part of London or anywhere and just walk for 2 hours and look at the work and go, why is the headlines too long? The visuals not right, and walk with a client and go, this is what's on the streets. And then you'll very quickly go, shit, that's like note to self when I get back, come and visit it, mock it up, all of those things. Don't just send it off.
So, so Neil Morris, who was my business partner when we started Grand Visual, has set up, since he left the business, set up something called Super Optimal, which is it's a copy checking service that producers can use. It's like, swipe a credit card type thing, but you can pop your creative up there that's supposed to go out on a poster, and it will give you a rating for legibility on point sizes, because it understands environment. So it uses there's a bit of AI in there, there's a bit of machine learning in there, and there's some output to say you might want to consider XYZ. It's a traffic light system. It's relatively straightforward, but it just gives you those pointers, and it's not really meant for people who are experts in out of home. It's meant for someone like this, where the King's Trust has spent money on a billboard, and that media is going to go to waste if you can't read it.
Can't read
but
it is
actually
it's to help the 95%, not the 5%. That's really
it is a good ad though, because it's good. It works. It's nicely laid out.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah,
but you're right. Okay, let's move on. Oh, was there another one? No.
Yes.
Very quickly, I mean, the other street that I basically live on is Archer Street in Soho, which is where Wonderhood is. And our landlord next door is the school, and people don't know about this school.
Shit, I thought it was the same image. Sorry, keep going, ignore me.
And so the school came to us and said, we need help. We haven't got enough students. Can you help us rebrand? And they knew that we did these sort of neighbourly projects in the community. So this is the very first iteration of the rebrand of the school, and they've got some amazing out-of-home sites that have been donated to them. So we're going to be doing a lot more out-of-home for this school, which is a really, really fun project because it's incredibly hand-to-mouth in the sense that the head teacher will pop round and say, oh, we've had more kids apply. So
that's great.
You can actually see your work working, which is really fantastic. And there's this very simple thought. There's only one school in Soho, and it's all about the extracurricular stuff you can do at that school, like music classes at Ronnie Scott's, school trips are at the National Gallery, and there's some really lovely work that the team's working on that hopefully you guys will see a bit later.
That's great. That's such a
brilliant.
Good, it's so unusual to get a USP these days, and that is like... That's like remember the Kessel's Kramer hotel, where they used to sort of do those contrived ads where it's like, it was the shittest hotel in Amsterdam, but they'd big it up. Do you remember that?
But there's something quite nice about this where, I've been past there loads, and you hear the kids playing out at playtime. You go, hey, I didn't realise there's a school in Soho.
And it's a state school.
Yeah.
And people think it's a private school.
What road is it on? Where is it?
It's on Archer Street.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So we're now going to do your first billboard.
Yeah.
We're looking at... you describe your first billboard.
So this is for British Airways. The line is upgrade to British Airways, and the headline is skis or boards fly free. And then what it is we've cropped an image of people on a lift going up the mountain to make it look like the boards and the skis are flying through the air. So very simple. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad.
When was this?
Oh man.
Or where were you? If you
so
BBH,
so this is BBH.
Yeah.
And this is at a very interesting time. My partner and I, Laurent Simon, we left college together. Tony called us the dark horses because he wasn't quite convinced that we were any good. But we had a lot of energy and determination. And actually, we were the first to get a placement at Y&R, but we didn't take it because we ended up entering something called the Diageo competition, which was this competition set up by Diageo, the drinks brand, where if you won it, you got a salary for the whole year and you went to do placements at all the Diageo agencies. So
oh, wow.
BBH had Johnny Walker, Mother had Pimm's, AMV had Guinness, obviously, and then JWT had Smirnoff.
Yep.
You know, it was like the best agencies in London at the time, and just a fantastic opportunity. And we had to do this interview process where we went to see Sir John Hegarty, Paul Brazier at AMV, Damon Collins at Mother, and then Tim Bell, I think, at JWT as well. And all the students applied for it, and we ended up winning it. I have to say, when we found out we won,
and the interview process is part of the
So you show your book, then you get narrowed down to 3 teams, then you go for these like the most scariest interviews.
It is like
ever.
The Apprentice.
Yeah. And when we found we won, I dropped to my knees weeping because I was so poor and we were struggling so much, and it was sort of vindication of all the hard work we've done.
I'm remembering you in your mum's kitchen as one light on, and you're writing from the Queen. San Antonio kiss. Here we are.
The whole of Watford's like that, where you're just sort of doing these mad projects, not quite knowing if you're ever going to get a job, and you know, you're working so hard. And when we got that, it was just amazing.
So from my side, very quickly, so I remember when you came to JWT, because you had to do your time at them, and hopefully you'll tell us why you chose Abbott Mead in a minute, but you came to JWT and I was going, fucking great. These guys are great. Me and Adam went straight into Russell and said, got to hire these guys. And he said, can't hire them. It's really complicated because I think you'd already said we're going to go back to Abbott Mead.
Well, Paul Brazier was very smart.
Yes, so tell us what happened there.
Well, this is sort of the theme of football in my career. So Lauren and I, not to blow our own trumpets, but we're not bad at football. You know, we played quite a bit, and Paul Brazier loves football. Right. And he had this thing on Fridays where he would gather up anyone who wanted to play football. We all jumped in a cab and we went down to this 5-a-side pitch every Friday. We would have a random game of football against Dave Dye, Sir Trevor Robinson, Billy Mead, like all of these like people. And then Braves would buy us like a greasy spoon lunch, and then we would come back.
Right.
And like Lauren and I couldn't believe our luck. We were spending all this time with Paul Brazier in the cab, showing him work, but you know, I don't think we were particularly talented as a team. I mean, we were all right, but we were determined, and any opportunity we would take it. So I sort of feel like football got us through the door, and then we sort of made the most of the opportunity.
You kicked through it with the work,
But anyway, so we did well at Abbott Mead Vickers, and Paul, we had to go on to the next one, which was Mother.
Yeah.
And before we left, Paul Brazier said, I would like to offer you a job. And we were like, brilliant, that's fantastic. And he said, the only condition is you need to sign the contract now. So once you do all these other placements, you come back to Abbott Mead Vickers. And we were going to Mother and then BBH. And we were desperate. So we were like, yes, immediately. And of course, it was a fantastic decision. It was never a bad decision. But we did go to Mother, and Robert Saville wanted to keep us on. And then we were like, but already signed a contract.
I know, because that's what happened at JWT. And it was really confusing, because normally you get a placement team and you go,
what was the order? Was it AMV first?
It was, we started off at JWT, then it was AMV, then it was BBH, Mother, and then BBH.
So it must have been, you came and then you'd... Russell, because I think it was Nick or Russell, I can't remember who was.
It was Nick Bow,
and we were all going great. But then there was this thing, and none of us could get our heads around it, go, what? Because no one had heard of Diageo doing a portfolio of the year, but you'd won it, and then you're on this And it got, like creatives are simple folk, which me and Adam just couldn't understand. Going, just fuck that, just tell everyone. And it's going, no. And now it makes total sense. And it must have been that's a really nice feeling going, well, we're in Mother, but got a gig anyway at Abermead.
There was that, but we're such geeks. We work so hard.
Right, yeah. Probably
and
it's a great experience as well.
Yeah.
You've got 2 more agencies to work at before you go. And
that was it, and actually the connections we made on that sort of year have been lifelong connections. But anyway, the story about the first billboard, if I've got time.
Yeah. No, keep going. Yeah. So because we're still on BBH, yes, go on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
British Airways. So we had this amazing brief to work in Sir John Hegarty, this BA brief, very simple proposition, skis and boards fly free. And we were like, wow, we did a stack of work, went into his office and he sort of sifted through it and picked out one. And we were like, this is just the dream, So John has picked out something from our work. And then he said, right, what you need to do is go and speak to Mark Reddy down the end of the corridor to talk about art direction. And we were like, okay, brilliant. So we went off to see Mark Reddy, which is an absolute legend in art direction. Yeah. He gave us his thoughts, said he quite liked it. He was like, oh, you need to work with Nick Meek on this. And we went back, brilliant, Nick Meek, amazing. It's just all going so well. And then we went back. And then we went back to Sir John and said, so Mark Reddy likes this. He thinks we should art direct it like this. And he thinks we should use this photographer. And then Sir John was like, I think he's wrong. I think you should do it like this. Right. And we were like, okay. And he goes, I want you to go back and tell Mark. Basically we became a pawn between Sir John and Mark because they famously didn't really see eye to eye on stuff. Yeah. Well. And we were ferrying layouts between Sir John and Mark. And it ended up with Mark, because we went back to Mark and said, Sir John doesn't agree with and he got really sort of cross with Sir John. And he said to us, well, how many pencils for art direction has Sir John won and how many are ours? How many have I won? And we were like, well, we don't know. And he was like, well, I've won loads more. So who are you going to choose? And we were like, well, you.
But he owns the company.
Yeah, I know, but
his name's on the door.
All we want is a job and an ad made. Anyway, it was kind of a weird thing to happen, but quite extraordinary.
Who won out?
Well, Nick Meek shot the ad.
Right.
So, and it was really great. Funny. We got to work with Nick.
Because you look at it and you go, sweet ad, really nice way to start. And all that's going on, but it's like the swan, isn't it? The duck, the legs.
Yeah. And
I can hear your conversation between the two ends of the office as well.
Yeah.
Because also,
what are we going to say to John?
Yeah, I know.
What are we going to say to Mark? What are we going to say to John?
Because the thing with Heg is, he's so polite. He's such a gentleman. And I imagine David Abbott, bless his cotton socks, I imagine he would have been like that as well. You don't want to let those people down.
No.
And you don't want to ruffle them. And I saw Hegarty angry once. Fucking hell, it scared me so much. I said to Adam, we'd never do that again. Yeah. But it was like, they're who they are because of who they are.
So moving into your work though, so you were going to talk about The Economist.
Yeah.
Was that after your year of placements?
Yeah. So then we returned to AMV,
right?
Laurent and I, and were given lots of really great opportunities and things to work on. I mean, the client list at AMV is always incredible. And we had this opportunity to work on The Economist. And I think actually the way the story goes is we got this brief because they needed copy for France in Paris. So they looked at us, and Laurent's French, and they were like, can you have a look at this? So we got this opportunity to write Economist lines and, spent hours and hours boshing out these things. And we were working, I think, into Mike and Dave at the time, like amazing team. And Tim Riley was supporting as well. I mean, we always just made the most of the talent around us, just superstars. Right? And they're all so generous for their time and amazing. So we just sort of wrote loads and loads of these and got them out somehow. And then
so the one, tell us the one we're looking at.
So this one says covers all hemispheres, north, south, left and right, The Economist. So that's all about the global outlook. I think the global outlook was the brief.
Yeah.
And then the second one is correct politically, so a play on politically correct.
And were these towards? I love. I mean, we love The Economist, particularly as a writer. You know that it sadly, I got to make one in a contest. I never worked at Abermead, but do you know this thing? I entered them.
We've talked about it.
And I won a Mont Blanc pen, which I still have.
You still have it, don't you?
Yeah, but
That's
it's
such
like
an Economist prize.
Oh, yeah. But it's like exactly. But it's like. Did you really want it? Did you think, we have to get an economist out of this?
We were at a time, I think, where the white out of red campaign was on its sort of last iteration. There was all this murmurings about it needs to be mixed up. You know, it's gone on for too long. And there was still some amazing ads being written. Tim Riley did the When You Think of Jordan ad. I think when we were there, so there was still some absolute classics being written, but Mark Fairbanks and Paul Cohen were working on this sort of new iteration of The Economist, which was the illustration route with beautiful lines, but they were bringing in a bit more sort of visual illustration to it to sort of bring it to life.
Jigsaw.
Yeah. So they were kind of in a transitional period, but we got this sort of almost final opportunity with White Out Red to get something out. So it was an amazing thing to write on and have a chance to sort of get out there.
Yeah, so, it's a really nice reminder, because we haven't really talked about it a bit lately, but this comes back in and just we remember all, Dave Dye and Tim and Paul Belford. So many people have worked on it. I remember the Belford one about him going, oh my God, there's too many words, I need to make it visual. And then I think Nigel goes on holiday and he does the light bulb thing comes, but it's just, anyway, we could talk about it all day.
But you get so many lessons through writing Economist ads, because, I think we went in with puns and wordplay and things like that. And the overriding lesson I learned from Economist, which I still tell teams now, even if it's like a line, it's got to have an idea. You can write that idea, that line, and you could write a whole campaign around that line. And Mark Fairbanks was great at that, teaching how to write really fantastic copy. And it was always idea, don't worry about wordplay, although I'm looking at correct politically and I'm thinking that is wordplay, but certainly the Hemispheres one, which I think is slightly stronger, is just a really, really fantastic idea.
The ones where it was like all good advertising, isn't it? It's where it opens the door in your brain just to something more, rather than it doesn't end there. I mean, I've got that book, I'm sure everyone has it, the well-read thing, but it's God, that's a lesson in great work. When often people get, like when I'm doing freelance, they go, we want it to be a bit like The Economist. I go, right, get that book out. And then you look at it and you're going, you're never going to be like this.
You're never going to be a bit like it.
Yeah, because they invested 20 years and you've just
I had that with Specsavers the other day. Exactly the same thing. Like someone came to us, said we want a Specsavers. I'm like, okay, talk to me in 25 years time when you spend the amount of money they have on doubling down on should have gone to Specsavers.
100%.
Right, we got to very sadly leave Abermead. We are going to go. So after this great time you had there, you went to this little startup. I'm going to have to just read this. I'm going to get close. Adam and Eve. I'm not sure if that's going to go well.
Is that when they were in Shorts Garden?
Yeah.
And it was Adam and Eve, not...
not DDB. Yeah.
So how was that?
So Laurent and I turned up and at Abermead Vickers, we were on the Euston Road, that big office that looks over the Landmark Hotel, and we'd got used to the high life, which was there was a lady who made tea and pushed biscuits round, and
we get one here. She'll come in a minute.
She was called Tina, and she was an absolute legend. And she, and it was so old school though. And then meetings would get cleaned up after you. There was just you were so spoiled, you were like spoiled brats in this place. And then we went to Adam and Eve, and I went to make a cup of tea and I was like, where's the spoons? And then someone said, you have to wash up your own spoon. And I almost fell over because I couldn't believe that you would have to do stuff.
Why are we
lift
here?
a finger. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Where's the spoon person?
Yeah, exactly. And then it was, you got lovely offices at AMV, but at Adam it was all open plan and everyone could hear you talking.
That office.
Yeah.
Where was
we all
it?
sat around a
Shorts
table.
Gardens in Covent Garden. So just off Drury Lane.
Yeah.
Wow. So how many people were there?
I think there must have been about 40 people there.
And you're just in one big room?
So there was 3 floors, and then the top floor was mainly creatives. And I remember sitting down with Laurent on our first day, and we started to kind of work on a brief. And I remember this sort of hush happened where you could feel people listening to you talk.
Oh,
and
God, I'm feeling
I was
really
like,
uncomfortable.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to cope with this. And then over time, obviously, people just lost interest, and you got used to working in open plan space, and you would duck out and find places to work.
Yeah,
but that was the start of learning to work in open plan. But I mean, it was quite a interesting one, because we felt very much like juniors at AMV. I mean, we were juniors. We'd got some good experience, but when we entered Adam and Eve, Ben Priest, who brought us in, and Ben Tollett and Emma Stamp brought us in, they sort of said we were kind of mid-weight to senior team. So it was a massive jump up. And
Right.
We kind of felt that very, very early on, and grew up quite quickly, I think.
Yeah.
That's the brilliant thing about a small independent, is you're exposed much more to things, and
You're trusted.
It really is all hands on deck, and there's
sink or swim, away you go. And just amazing
I
opportunities.
can remember doing some work on Foster's in the old office.
Yeah.
There was like there was a TV campaign. It was comedic, but then the out of home was kind of try on different clothes. It would take your picture. Do you remember?
Yes, yeah.
And I remember we tested it in the off. We came to the office with screens and stuff to test, because it was going out in bus stops around the city. And everyone in the agency tested it.
Really?
While we were stood there going, oh my God, is it going to work? This is very early in the Grand Visual days as well, so it wasn't...
Well, everything just meant so much, and every win you really felt, every loss you felt, and every bit of work you would cheer, and, and that's what, I guess I really fell in love with, that sort of young startup vibe, because it's just so exciting, and
it's a real sense of team.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, I'm now, after you having said all that, I'm thinking, because this is for VW, these lovely posters, which have the kind of kapow type Batman graphic, but they're not, they don't say biff, boff or kapow. They say things like almost and close and nearly, which is a brilliant riff on that. So could you tell us a bit about this? Because obviously this would have been when the merger had happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's a bit further down the line, right?
Yeah, so we had this really interesting situation where we got bought out by DDB, and it was a management sort of takeover. So Adam and Eve was basically plonked in the middle of DDB and started running the place. And we were sort of put on this mezzanine floor, and it was like Alien, and we started to infiltrate the ship and sort of move outwards into this building.
Like Tribal were downstairs as well.
Yeah, exactly. There was sort of different
digital,
groups and companies, and
this in Paddington then.
Yes, in Paddington, and Laurent and I were actually really excited by it, because suddenly the whole client list grew from sort of 7 or 8 to 70 clients.
Yeah.
And one of them was obviously VW, which was just an iconic client. And Jeremy Cragen was still there. He was, I don't know the ins and outs of everything, but I think he was there for a time seeing out VW. And we just saw this opportunity to work with another incredible legend. And VW set this brief, which was Win a Cannes Lion brief, and a little bit scammy, but to be fair to them, they did run, and they were very set up to, take this product point, do an ad around it. If it's good enough, we'll run it, and then we'll enter it.
And what was the product point? It was
this one was all about
a special brake.
Yeah. Volkswagen City emergency brake. So I think what happens is it automatically stops.
Yeah.
It's a sensor. Yeah, I mean, this is quite a few years ago now. Cars have obviously changed quite a bit since then, but this was a big deal. It avoided accidents. They just look very great. Simple proposition.
Great posters, right?
Yeah.
It's just, God, this is the thing. You don't need to do any more.
Yeah. It's trying to reduce the amount of
and who did the mark? So
Pete Mould was there, this legendary designer who is now on Atomic, I believe, but really, really lovely guy who gave up a tremendous amount of time. And we used an illustrator called, I think it was John Rogers, but it was someone who was a bit more of a storyboard art, a sort of commercials jobbing illustrator, and he
get
did
that
these
comic book.
yeah. And then
Mark Denton, but not Mark.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so it was very cost effective to do, and Jeremy was really, really great on it and helped us a lot. So
At St Luke's, Pete.
he's at St Luke's.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Pete Mould. Yeah, we'd like to get him on actually because he's
done some amazing stuff. Yeah, and again, learned a lot from the way he kind of approached this project.
Right, so now it's going to go a bit football crazy, and I might have to pass the over to you two because this is Google Front Row.
Yeah, this was a collab between Adam and Eve and Grand Visual to make this happen.
Yeah.
Tell me more, guys. How did you come up with it?
I remember being called in to Paddington by, I think it was Cave.
Oh yeah, Cave.
Elson.
Yeah.
Saying we got this idea on the table about beaming people into the front row of a football stadium, and there's a deal between Google Plus and Man United. Can we do it at Old Trafford? And I said what I always say in those situations. Yeah, of course you can. No problem. I'll worry about it later. And then started to dig into it. Well, it's Google. It's got to use Google technology. It's got to, there's all the things that were going through our brains in terms of tech. And obviously on the creative side, there was the full story of how do you get people from around the world and telling that part of the story as well. But for us, the tech headache started straight away. It was,
because Google said they're not going to help.
Yeah, they went. Google went. Oh yeah, our platform. Our platform only.
You do it.
This is pre-Zoom and Teams and whatever Hangouts. Google's live calling system back then, Google Plus, would only allow 8 people in.
Yeah, and it was quite glitchy as well because we haven't had the pandemic to sharpen it all up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in fact, this has been mimicked in pandemic when people weren't allowed in stadiums. They virtually beamed people in stadiums, and this is way before that.
I remember that.
So we had to rebuild using Google technology, effectively what would now be Google Meet, with a slight delay in it, so that if someone showed something they weren't supposed to on screen, it didn't get broadcast to 1 billion people around the world. But it was there was also other restrictions, like at the stadium. It's quite an old and decrepit stadium, Old Trafford. It's just been extended. But the infrastructure doesn't
rise to that.
The infrastructure doesn't support the 70,000 odd people so now it's 88,000 or something, but 70,000 people back then. The infrastructure was still old. While they had these new fancy hoardings, the connections to it were really poor. So, and also on match day, everything's heavily restricted because all of the pipes, so the broadcast pipes and stuff, are being used up by the broadcasters like Sky and to get data in and out of the stadium. So the bandwidth that we had to play with was really small. So there were all these tech restrictions in place to beam people into the front row, and it was.
But what order did it happen? Because I joking aside, it's a fucking great idea because you go hoardings. How can you do it? I like it when people do it because you watch.
Well, Aidan, you should tell the story of the creative message.
I was going to say because when it comes to digital hoarding, that's a move on. But then to make it for people around the planet who'll never make it there and their faces, is such a fucking cool idea.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And so this was Google Plus, which was Google's attempt to create a social network, and it was a really tough brief because it's very hard to get people to join a social network when they're on their own, Facebook. But the whole strategy was around building communities. So we were focusing on sport as a really major community. And then I think there was other ones, art and photography and stuff like that. But sport was the one where I think we got the most traction. So the brief was all around how do we build a community around sport. And then the creatives on it. So this was actually Laurent and I's first foray into creative direction. And we were given this massive account.
Right.
Which was really fun. And I think our naivety on it helped this sort of happen because we were like, yeah, why not? Let's go for it. And we had a placement team which was Natalie Gordon and Luke Stone. And they had just the worst scamp you've ever seen. It was like a really crap stadium, and then some like drawings that looked like a sort of 7-year-old had drawn people around the hoardings.
I think I've still got it somewhere.
And it was like, what?
I'll try and find it. Yeah.
Can we do that? And then, so Lauren and I were like, well, that's brilliant. Like, imagine if you could do that. I don't know if you can, but why not? And so we gave it a shot, and then they kind of bought it. I can't really remember the whole selling in process, but we had a great relationship with the client. And you know, they were very ambitious, and I think they sort of said, if you can make this work, we will do it. And that's when we chatted to you guys, just trying to work. I mean, we obviously had no idea how you'd even go about doing something like this, but I think it was really the partnership was crucial on this to make it happen. And then interesting, Nat and Luke didn't stay on placement. They sort of went off for various reasons. And then another creative team, Neil and Darren, took on the project and actually got the fun bit, which was traveling all over the world with a director, meeting all these Man United fans from every corner of the globe. And
you got to remember, this is at a time where Man United were a big club.
I'm not rising to that. Fuck off.
But massive global appeal. You know, it's still the Alex Ferguson years. There's, you know, it was the.
Do you know what? Yeah. Quite sadly, I watched the video last night, and I was.
Do you know the result of the game?
No, but I saw people like Vidic. I was going, oh God,
the glory years.
Oh God, and I saw Rooney. I was sitting there going, we were so good.
Yeah. So there's another part that goes with this, and it feels like, you know, football's been a large part of my career as well. Funny enough, lots of kind of reactive campaigns to whatever's happening on a football pitch, and this is one of those where, you know, I remember having these conversations with Cave and with the creative team. Was it Neil and Darren?
Yeah.
Saying, you know, what happens if United lose the game and people on the hangout are starting to get angry? Are we going to be like, do we want those shots of people go, they start leaving the things, or what happens?
Yeah, because it's happening, isn't it?
So
it was all live.
We had 25 people in the loop
who were diehard United fans, and
if someone dropped out for their connection reasons, it would replace them and all this kind of stuff. There was all these fail safes in place, and someone watching it to make sure that no one was, you know, giving hand signals or showing something, a body part on screen, because United are so awful. Anyway, our worst fears came to life, and this is the thing that's followed me around when we've done football campaigns. Teams lose, right? That's one team wins one. United lost the game 4-0 at home to Liverpool. It was the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
At Old Trafford. 4-0. So it got to.
Was that when
someone made the creative direction call on at 3-0? And 65 minutes gone to switch to the emergency message because someone was worried. Because you've got the TV audience, right? You've got people around the world.
No, but okay, to your credit, and thank you for bringing up that horrific result. Obviously, the beginning and end. But from a advertising person point of view, I watched the film, and but between the two of you and your respective agencies pulled it off, because it's such a simple idea. It's so well put together, and it's actually quite emotional when someone's there going, they're in Pakistan or there's somewhere.
Trinidad and Tobago. I'll never get to Old Trafford to have a chance to be in the front row.
Yeah. And it's your thing. Dan's got this really good expression, tech for creativity's sake. Yeah. And I think it is one of those, that's where you go, fucking hell, isn't technology brilliant? And it allows us to do these things. So I think it's a brilliant piece of work.
And I think this is one of those first ones that was, it's an outdoor advertising hoarding. It's at a football game. There's 80,000 people in the stadium. But the true audience was sat at home watching it. Yeah. It's the biggest game of the season.
Yeah.
For Man United and for Liverpool, it's the big rivalry, right? So billion people around the world watching it. And in fact, that's what I said to. I hope Mike's listening. Mike's the lead developer at Grand Visual. We had to have someone up on the gantry, which is right next to where the Sky Sports commentator team sit, and it's also where the tech that powers all of the hoardings works from. So we had to have someone sitting up there, and we decided it was going to be Mike because he was the lead developer on it. And just in case something went wrong.
Oh, I know this story.
Right next to it.
This is a great story.
And
is Mike the one with the big beard and long hair?
No,
I remember a guy with a big beard and long hair looking really worried on the day. That's my overriding.
That was our producer.
Oh right, okay.
But Mike was really worried because 3 minutes before he started, I was like, right, good luck up on the gantry. He's quite scared of heights anyway. But I said to him, don't worry, there's only 1 billion people watching. And he went, what? I went, well, it's being broadcast on live TV, mate. It's going around the world. He was like, oh, and I could see him shaking. I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that to him.
But isn't there a thing about a bomb scare?
No, that was all the fail safes. There was all like, what if there's a bomb scare? What happens? And there was all the
right. Okay, listen, we've got to move on.
Yeah, we've
got much more football to do.
Yeah.
So Sugar Ray Leonard. Sorry for those people at home. We will.
Yeah, you can see. We'll put the video,
on the website.
The YouTube video of the thing on the website.
So we're gonna leave Adam and Eve on your timeline and go to BBC Creative. This is kind of weird. This is a bit like Helen Rhodes yesterday, isn't it? It's literally
same story.
No, sort of the journey is quite interesting. But,
there's a lot of intertwining. Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
But the BBC Creative, so you did so much brilliant work there. Kind of like kicked it into shape, really. BBC was sort of. It's kind of like strange beast, wasn't it? Some agencies had a bit of it, some others a bit. Then there's this Red Bee thing, and then it sort of did its own thing. Yeah. And no one had heard really of BBC Creative. I think 4 Creative were like flying. Yeah. But no one else had really fucking nailed it. And then you guys came along, and it really changed. Yeah, they're on with it.
So BBC Creative didn't exist really. This was a startup. So. A startup with a massive, great big safety net in that your founding client is your employee as well.
Yeah, it's nice.
But Justin Baramian and James Wood had been given the task by the BBC as a cost-cutting kind of exercise to bring everything in-house. And I think this was the start of the in-housing movement. Obviously there were places smashing it, for Creative, Specsavers was,
Specsavers.
But I think BBC, and then you start to see other companies doing it, after that. And so, when we decided to take the job and apply for it, we were a little bit nervous about it because it felt a little bit, that we were going to narrow ourselves to one brand. But we love the BBC and such great properties, and the thought of having the keys to the BBC and doing all their marketing was very, very exciting. So we took on this thing, but it very much was like a startup in the sense that we inherited a bit of Red Bee. There were very little processes in place. We didn't have a planning department. There were no account people. And then it was like, go. And there was thousands of campaigns that we had to sort of think about, work on, and,
Was it literally like a tap turning on?
Yeah. And the idea was over 3 years we would bring it all in-house, but it happened quite quickly in that they kind of wound up things with Y&R and various other people. We ended up doing a lot of it quite quickly by ourselves. I just remember kind of riding home after work and then stopping halfway going, oh my God, I've forgotten that. And because you didn't have any sort of project management, or it was really kind of quite mental. Yeah. But as I said, there was just these amazing briefs and opportunities and things. And it was all about actually prioritizing the things that were, important, actually working out things that were genuine opportunities and not just sort of like a headless chicken going after everything. And I think the sort of culmination of all our work was the World Cup, when they said, you're going to get a crack at this.
The World Cup in Russia.
This 2018.
Yes.
Charlotte Locke, who's now at John Lewis, was running the sports up in Salford. She gave us a crack at this and was very much, don't fuck it up. And the way Laurent and I ran it was very much like, we're going in to pitch. And that's one of the things that is interesting about in-house agents. You don't have to pitch. And how do you stimulate that sense of kind of team and competitiveness within the group? How do you galvanize a group to really get up and go for something? And we did quite intentionally run it like a pitch, and to the point that we went up to Salford the night before. I remember Justin, James and Tim and James, who meanwhile, they were our CDs up in Salford. They were working very closely with us. They were the CDs on this. And we were basically did this sort of meeting that went on to about kind of 10 o'clock at night. And I remember Justin being like, wow, we're really working late, you know, we're really burning the midnight oil on this one. And then we went back to our hotel, you know, prepared all our pitch. And then the next day we went to pitch this. And we had, I think, 3 routes that we presented. And unanimously they went for this one, which is Under and Ed's amazing The History Will Be Made, which is all about creating a tapestry of the World Cup through the ages. And we worked with Blink Ink to bring it to life. You know, Blink Ink are the masters of doing things for real. And the director was Nikos Livsley. And the reason why we were interested in him is he actually did a music video which was all embroidered for this death metal band. Wow. So he had it kind of on his reel in a way, the beginnings of this sort of idea, and then obviously took it to the next level.
Didn't
for this.
Michel Gondry do one where it was sewn? There's characters in a band and they were sewn together as well.
Oh really? I haven't seen that.
But if it has that, I remember seeing this and thinking, sorry, just jumping in.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, fucking hell, that's good. Because you know that thing, we're writing it now for Christmas. You see, going, well, who's going to win Christmas?
Yeah.
You know, and I remember whenever because I'm a massive footy fan, you're going, right, what are the ITV idents? Like, what's BBC? What's Sky done? It's a big thing, and particularly if you're a football fan.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it and even get a bit of a tingle thinking about it now, because it was so well, it was a great idea, but it's so well executed, and it had all the bits, and annoyingly, I still watched it last night and got angry about Lampard's fucking shot.
Oh, God,
going over the line.
Yeah.
So I'm going, but it was so well.
Game. Was it a Germany game?
Yeah.
I mean,
when it crossed the line, didn't it?
It did cross the line, but like 2 foot.
Yeah.
But so
a bit like Pedro Mendes at Old Trafford as well, by the way, just so you know.
But kudos to you guys and everyone who put it together, because they were brought, you know, people might go, oh, look, but it didn't really count and it's ages ago and let it go. But no, you've got to pick the things which affect us as a nation.
Yeah.
And those do. And that's what I love about it.
And actually the football idents I think there's such iconic moments in time, the World Cup ones and the Euros.
Yeah.
They're, you know, it's only every 4 years for World Cup. So when those idents and the theme comes out, you always remember.
I mean, it's an amazing story.
How did you do it? Yeah, tell us. So what?
Well, I think, you know, Laurent and I, what was in our heads was that amazing football. I've forgotten the year, but it was the Masters of Europe. Do you remember that? Where French was Picasso, Spain was I'm testing.
Well, they brought them all to life.
Yeah, they brought them in the
paintings.
styles of the paintings, and it had this amazing track on it. And you know, that was a big thing from when I was younger. I just always remembered that. So we sort of had that in our heads that was the thing we wanted. And this, you know, when we saw this, it was like, well, that's it. This is it. This could be that. And but then it's a huge amount of craft in it, because, you know, you got to work out what the story is. Which moments in history do you want to choose? How do they very literally stitch all together? And then, as you say, there's some high moments, there's some low moments, and, you know, how do you get that balance right? And I think, you know, Blink are the masters at sort of storytelling and getting those arcs, you know, working, and just the level of craft on this was.
So it was made into literally one massive long tapestry.
Yes, it was all done for real.
And then you literally then just filmed the. Wait,
no. So what you do is you would create the film, and then you break it up into frames, and then you would sew those frames. So
you made a film first from the action.
Yes. So at home, I've got some of the frames. So I've got the Gary Lineker frame.
Where he does.
Yeah. And then it's very simple stop frame where you sort of break it all down. But then what we did was we turned the whole thing into this one long, amazing tapestry that now hangs in the football museum. I was going
to bring that up.
Yeah. So there were sort of two components to it.
So which did make me think. People always say that what was the first great advert, and Sir John always talks about the ceiling,
the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah, which is, you know, a lot of people say because it was selling some sort of thought about being closer to God or something. I'm probably getting that completely wrong, but if you think about tapestries, were they the original posters? Because they were like these massive long. You know,
hang them in your living room, wouldn't you?
And so, you know, I was thinking that. So
bought that.
Like, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Done that. Yeah, it's like, it's a great piece of work. I don't know what's come since, and I quite like
I feel like there was a Game of Thrones one as well, wasn't there?
I think there was.
Yeah.
Oh, way after this.
So just on the end of this piece on the Russian World Cup, have you got some sort of facts? You said you were talking about earlier about how much.
So I've actually written these down. So there's more than 227,000 meters of thread we used to make this. Over 600 unique frames of tapestry. That's the sort of stop frame technique. So there were 600 of them. Wow. And then here's one. If laid end to end, they would measure over 1,200 meters in length. Wow. So it was a lot of craft work, a lot of sore fingers.
Yeah.
And it should be said, we got to the semi-final.
Yeah.
And we came pretty close. And I remember distinctly, the free kick went in. It was Trippier, wasn't it? And my mate was over from Australia, and at 60 minutes...
Was that Croatia? Is that Croatia?
Croatia. Yeah. And my mate said, "Fucking hell, I think we're going to go to the final here." And within like about 10 minutes, Croatia went to the score. I was like, fuck's sake, don't jinx it.
It was Modric, wasn't it?
Yeah. Did it go...
3-1, extra time.
Was it extra time? Yeah.
I think Modric beat us.
Yeah. Well, they were a one-man team.
And then, of course, and it seems... God, don't start now, but it's the same. We got one up against Italy and we just faded, and it was the same against fucking Spain. Anyway, Spain, he chose the wrong. Spain in that final the other day. I was the first time I turned against Southgate. I wasn't happy.
That wasn't the first time you turned against Southgate.
No,
I can show you don't even try.
Okay, yeah, no,
don't even try it. After the first game, you turned on Southgate.
No.
I can show you the text messages.
Please don't. He's a very good man. I like him a lot. I was just caught up in the moment. I liked him, but clearly, fucking Cole Palmer, get him on. Sorry. Anyway, right, moving on to football.
From football to
so we're going to talk about BBC done. We're going to have to sort of very craply say, and then you launched Wonderhood Studios. Not take too long about that, but I'm imagining it like you said earlier.
Well, let's talk about that actually, because it's
a big moment. Right?
We talked about it before we started recording about the joy of a startup and what it's like at the beginning, and talk about the decision to do it and where that came from. And setting up the brand, because it's not just another agency. It's different type of agency.
You have to apply all your thinking to your own thing rather than someone else. And just before that, obviously Laurent and I were working together. We were a team. We'd been working together for 14 years. We've gone through thick and thin with each other. And one thing, we did talk about what we wanted to do moving forwards. And I always said I wanted to do a startup just because I loved the Adam and Eve. And I really liked being at the BBC and having that kind of sense of building something. And he was very clear that he really didn't. He valued his family, he said, and didn't want to do the startup thing. So it felt like quite a natural kind of fork in the road for us. And it's tricky as you sort of, ascend the slippery pole. You become more expensive, and it becomes much harder employing a team, and you have to think about, going on your own. So Wonderhood wasn't just a new job; it was a new job when I was doing it by myself. So I was sort of coming to terms with that side of things as well. And I've got twin boys actually, and and a daughter, but. It's funny with twins and creative teams, you become quite codependent in the sense that you fill in for each other. You kind of make up for the things that you're not particularly good at. Or
if one of you goes on holiday, you can say, well, what would they do? And you can almost fill in their blanks for you. Right?
And totally. And you've always got that sympathetic ear that you can go, am I going mad? Is this terrible? You've always got that with a team, which is lovely. And, not having that and starting a new place was quite challenging in a way, but equally it was just such an exciting opportunity. And having David, who was a real sort of grown up, incredible experience, being there to sort of steady the ship, it felt like we weren't just completely doing it by ourselves. There was 5 of us, all relatively experienced, so we never really ever felt massively exposed. But I do remember in the early years of Wonderhood, so I'd been doing World Cup, doing Blue Planet, launching Blue Planet, doing these amazing, brilliant things, and started Wonderhood. No one had any clients, and it was like, oh right, so what we have to No one's got any connections, no nothing. And there was one connection, which was this person who made phone cases, and he said that he wanted an ad. And that was our first project, is speaking to someone who made phone cases, which, nothing against phone cases, but it's not the World Cup or Blue Planet. And I had these hot and cold moments where you're like, what on earth have I done?
Yeah.
Like, I've thrown away this amazing job to do something. But then you just put one foot in front of the other, and like you do something, and then something else happens, and then that leads to something else. And
if you build, there's also the same thing. You build it, they'll come, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm such a believer in creative momentum that you have to make stuff in order for other things to happen. You can't just sit there. And actually, that was one of my frustrations with big agencies, the research thing of just pumping stuff into a machine. You never make anything, and it just feels like you're not moving forwards as a creative. And I know that's really frustrating for a lot of creatives out there. And that's why I wanted to do at Wonderhood is, even if we didn't have clients, let's make stuff, let's do stuff, and just get that kind of momentum going, and stuff will happen. And I think Nike, which is the next project, is a great example of that, in that we had this brief with Nike to come up with a long form property, and it wasn't even a proper brief. I think we pitched ourselves to them that we make documentaries and television shows. We also do marketing. How about we think about Nike and entertainment properties? And they said, well, Black History Month's coming up, have a crack on that. And we threw everything at it because it was just such an amazing opportunity. And actually we got quite far, and we had television developers in. We'd done this amazing project with Tentacles, and it was this great big thing, and it was so exciting. And then it just died. It just got killed. And we were sort of sat there going, wow, that's quite painful. But there was this one sort of small thing which someone from the development team on the TV side had this amazing fact, which was like, since the England team had officially started, there'd only been 93 black players. And it was just a really interesting bit of information that sort of, came up in the development of the TV thing. And then coincidentally, Nike, I think, kind of felt bad for us and said, oh, by the way, there's this game on at Wembley against Montenegro. It's the 1000th, game for England as a professional team. If you've got an idea for a poster, we'll run it, and there's no money, but have a crack if you want. And we were like, well, there's this amazing thing. What happens if you did this whole kind of, it's sort of like not a protest, but just a kind of a statement about where we're at with the game and all the racism that was going on. We just played that game in Montenegro where there was all that racial abuse against Sterling.
Sterling, yeah. It's awful.
There's an interview where Sterling's like saying, it's 2000 and
did he walk
2019. Off? I can't believe this is happening. He walked off.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And in a way,
horrific.
This was all inspired and motivated by those scenes. And we were the return leg. It's the 1000th game. Nike, being Nike, said, well, let's do this idea where we put all the we blazon Wembley with all the black players that have ever played for England and make them heroes, and it was just this amazing sort of coincidence of different things that made this happen. And then we were such a small team.
Paul Ince was only the 26th.
That's the thing. This is where it's really amazing. So you've got the sort of famous Viv Anderson first, but then John Barnes, who, when I was a kid, was an absolute legend. It was number 7.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes sort of really interesting that, this is such a recent thing. And then, of course, they've had such an impact on the game. And the whole, what made this project really challenging was the research needed, because obviously it's heritage is really complicated. And, people that might not obviously look black are black and identify as black. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be so rigorous in your research. And that was the biggest part of that, was the research for this whole project, and making sure we didn't massively put our foot in it in a really, really big way, you know. So that was incredible. And then the other bit of craft that I absolutely loved about this was the designer. We had this guy called James Wakefield, who was an absolute football nut, had this genius idea of writing the number in the typeface of the debut shirt of that player. So,
oh yeah, nice.
So every single typeface is different, but it relates to the debut shirt that player wore on their first game, which is just such a lovely little touch.
I was sort of looking at it thinking, why does this look so good? You know, that you just know it's good.
Yeah.
They're not
and it's interesting because I can see the typefaces now and I go, I remember that shirt. Yeah, that's a Euro 96 shirt.
Exactly,
yeah.
But, you know, a huge amount of effort, and like hats off to Phil and Ads, who are the creators on it, and Jack and Stace, is still with us, and incredible, and a huge amount of work that went into that.
It's good because it sort of does epitomise exactly what you said about being proactive, on the front foot, being you know, content creators and making things happen. And if you're used to behaving like that, then it's second nature.
And if when you're building a business, if that's the culture of the business, people when they come on board do it.
Yeah,
right.
100%. Yeah, we have a mantra which is make it happen, and it's to instill a kind of entrepreneurialism in everyone who joins. You know, and we feel like if your ambition will drive this company forward, if you're ambitious to make something happen, Wonderhood will benefit from it. So we're very keen that people, if they've got something and we all agree it's great, let's just make it happen.
I remember working for Droga. So I was at BBH, I went to Droga, and bit of a sweeping statement. Hegarty's a genius, you know, thought-wise and strategically as well as creatively. But Droga had this thing about making things happen. I remember, and it was fucking scary. So he would go, the Orgasms campaign for Coco, and make, yes, we do it. I'll go and sell it, and then you do it. And I was like, nah, doesn't work like that. He goes, yeah, it does. And then he said, I've sold it. Now go and make it. And we had the freedom just to meet Frank Budgeon, bless him. He'd always wanted to do something with photography, and he just let us do it.
Yeah.
And it was that simple. And then when he went to Droga 5 or publicist in Droga 5 in New York, I spotted that he employed so many people who were producers. And it's exactly what he said. He said they just want to make things. They don't want to waste time just fucking chucking stuff into research. And it was, I'm like, right, yeah. So if you set up a business, employ those people who are going to make it happen, not kind of the others who go, oh, well, you know, that didn't work. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
A philosophy.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, right. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to move you on. So
I remember actually, sorry.
Go on. So,
very early on, Dave Trott did a sort of class for us when we were at Watford, and something really stuck in my head. He said, if I put a gun to your head and say, get a job tomorrow, you would get a job. And it's quite brutal and scary, but I've always thought that's a really good thing in the sense that if you want to make something, you really want to make it, you will make it happen, because you just won't give up until it's made. And if you have that attitude of like, I'm not going to stop until that happens, invariably it does, you know. And I can sort of think back of a lot of things where it takes someone's drive and energy to get something across the line, and someone has to have that in the team. Otherwise it's all like, well, just move on to the next one.
It sort of shows through in the work, doesn't it, when you see stuff like that?
Yeah, really. Someone's driving it, you know. There'll always be someone in that project. It could be the team or it could be an individual, but they've got that vision.
Yeah, we found out yesterday that Tesco's Icons campaign was a piece of proactive work by a team that had it in their bottom drawer. Yeah, been trying to do it for ages, and you just look at it and you're going, I had a feeling that would have comes from somewhere else. Right, okay, we're going to do a couple more. Yeah, a bit more footy,
more football.
But this is all about migration angles. Yeah. So the Migration Museum. So I remember seeing this. Was it a? I'm sure it wasn't, but was it a fluke that it came out at the time of the tournament, or was it? The idea was
tactically relevant.
Yes.
So what happened on this one? This was actually the first bit of work Wonderhood ever did. We had a kind of connection with the Migration Museum. They said, "Do you want to do something?" We did something. They had some free media. It went out. It kind of mildly blew up, and that was the first time we did it. And then this tournament came round, and we decided. We kind of rushed it out before. We've actually got a design department now. Let's do it again, but really do it properly. And we reran it and made it really reactive, and it sort of blew up twice the size this time round.
What was the I can't remember which tournament was it?
The first one, so that would have been 2002. No.
20.
Would have been it was the Euros, wasn't it?
Euro 2021.
Euros, yeah. So it was after the World Cup,
but
2018, and then it would. But then it got
moved to 2021.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It was 2020 moved to 21.
So just to describe the poster quickly, it says England without immigration.
Yeah,
and there's only 4 players on the team.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about the Migration Museum is that they're not political in a sense, that they don't want to create issues. They just present the facts in an interesting way, and that inspires conversation and gets people talking and thinking. And that's exactly what we're not trying to provoke overtly, but just by putting up the facts, it causes a conversation. And it caused a massive conversation. And the thing is that it blew up for something that costs next to nothing, millions of views, loads of engagements, and lots of copycat stuff, which is great when you get people sort of doing their own version, other countries doing it and talking about it. But where it gets really interesting, a bit like the Nike project, is when you get into the details of someone's family background, people have got really surprising histories, and Harry Kane has an immigrant background. You wouldn't think that, and so it's people that you're like, they're solid England or whatever, and they're not. Like, no one really. The very, very few people, their lineage is so clean as that. So it's a really interesting topic. It really gets people thinking about immigration in a positive way and sparks conversation. And stuff like this are great social campaigns, because you get a lot of horrible comments, but you get a lot of positive things, but it surfaces it and it creates
it's quite appropriate for now as well,
yes,
given the US election results, and Trump
so
saying he's going to deport 10 million people. Just like America without immigration is nothing.
Yes,
remember that.
Exactly.
And it's the same here. We're from an immigrant family, and I think it's everything that's great and good about modern Great Britain.
I totally. It's like, that's why one of the reasons I love living in London so much. It's just such a vastly diverse place to live. It's just
And also, I think it highlights that these things just aren't as simple as immigrant, not immigrant. And I think what America's doing is it's oversimplifying things, and that causes a lot of, really complicated problems, and immigration is really complicated. It's such a complicated thing that you can't be that black and white about it.
My mum's from Belgium, and they came here to avoid fascism in Europe just before the war, and so like I'm from, that's where so, but you meet me and you think, oh yeah, classic British bloke, and it's like, it's bollocks.
Yeah, my dad was born in India and came here when he was 10.
Yeah.
Same.
And that's the thing, I think people make snap judgments about people, and I think that's why, do
you know what,
campaigns like this are important, because
we've gone a bit like the Today programme. What's going on? Right, okay.
I said to my wife, I was like, I've got this coming up, and she said, do not talk about politics, do not talk about anything you don't know, stick to what you know, because
we stray everywhere.
But straying, but just far enough for me, because I say Heyman Rach says
you can't say that.
No, she'll say, no, but the thing that happened in 62, and I go, no, I'm just emotionally responding to things, and she's going, just always ends in tears most of mine. Right, we're going to the last bit of footy, and again, I remember this, it was brilliantly topical. It's the front signage of Coral, and you change it to Sweet Coraline, which is just genius. Having said you don't like puns, this is absolutely out there.
It's up there,
we put it on our Insta socials, and it was it's that song, and it just, again, it was, I think this is the most recent nearly winning a trophy for
really?
England. I think this was when it was the last Euros, wasn't it?
Of course,
So we did come incredibly close, but again, a nice thing that you go, okay, out. We love all sorts of outdoor, and one of which is signage of places. And so, did someone just rock up the corridor and go, Aidan got this thought, or did someone say it as how did it come about? Because it's so simple.
So Jen and Ollie with the team, they just had the idea, and I think this is a great example of make it happen if you want to do something.
Did you have them as a client?
Yeah. So they're a client of ours, and had no involvement with the World Cup. But how can you insert yourself into the conversation somehow? And so this sort of popped up, and it was one of those ones where you wanted to get it out really quickly. But then the client was like, oh, but what happens if England lose the next round? And should we do it maybe in a small way, and then if they get through to the next round, we'll do it in a bit. So the whole tournament took on a new kind of excitement that if England progresses, we are going to do this idea. So it all became doubly kind of job. Come on. Yeah. So, and also that, they had an amazing tournament and got to the final. So this idea became more and more sort of bigger, and they ended up changing the front of their stores. And then, we had press ads out there, and then we made these flags. And at one point we had some poor account person ready to board a plane with like a load of flags in his backpack to try and get them into the stadium, and then that was seen as too high risk. And so it was just exciting, and it's sort of fun.
How do you change the front of a shop? Because is that I was thinking this last night, was that sort of a bit of canvas over there?
No, I think that's a proper frontage.
Yeah, like a proper.
So we got the artwork on. The thing that
they went for it.
Yeah, I mean they properly did it.
No, it's
this
great.
Wasn't,
it's what I love about our job. You go, do you want to change the name of your shop? Okay, so we're nearly there. We're going to come a bit closer to home, and talk about Wonderhood and the sort of neighbourhood thing you were talking about, and we've got a couple of projects here, which one's a London soup kitchen and one's coffee. What should we start with, Aidan? Should we go with?
So the first one we did of this was the Sacred Grounds, which is St Anne's Church, and basically the design studio run by Simon Elvins, we wanted to do something that put the design studio on the map, and we came up with this idea of the Neighbourly Fund, which is a little pot of cash where we would go out to local businesses, independent businesses, and say, look, we can offer our design help if you need a little bit of help. And our first customer was St Anne's Church. He said, we're going to be launching this coffee shop. Can you give us a name, an identity, and do some posters for us? And we did that, and we got to this really interesting idea of divine coffee in the heart of Soho. And it's basically that Soho is full of kind of interesting things, sex, drugs and music, but then also there's this church, which is a really welcoming church that's just off Old Compton Street. So the whole idea is like, do your thing in Soho and come and repent at this Sacred Grounds coffee shop. So it sort of lent itself to a fun sort of tone of voice.
Can I read
posters.
Can I read this one out?
Yeah.
Pick up a double ender, then buy a double espresso. Your mum and dad would be so proud.
So the client is Father Simon, who approves all of this.
I love Father Simon, and he needs to come on.
Some of the things we've got in the pipeline for that are amazing, you know, and we've got a whole merch line. And
is there a pipeline involved? Sorry. Trade your poppers for a poppy seed roll. Sex shop, sauna, Sacred Grounds. It's great. I mean, they're we're looking at fly postery stuff.
Yes. So this, obviously we're doing this on the cheap, but fly post, this is legal fly posting, which you're allowed to do around Soho. There
are certain sites that you can do.
And it's actually a really great medium for very targeted local stuff. And we've done a bit of this for our shows as well, when we do posters internally for our shows.
And then finally, quite appropriately, really, because we're heading towards Christmas, we've got a Christmas dinners campaign. I remember seeing this beautifully put together. Yeah. Tell us a bit about that.
So the London Soup Kitchen is just around the corner from us, and at Wonderhood, we offer kind of, we call it a Wonder Day, where people can go and volunteer and stuff. And a few people went and volunteered at this soup kitchen and got quite inspired by what they were doing. And Tad and Indy, who are the creators on this, went and, had that experience. And actually we're chatting to some of the homeless people and got these incredible stories about what they would normally eat at Christmas if they didn't have the homeless the soup kitchen, the London Soup Kitchen, to fall back on. So that was sort of the beginnings of this thought. And then they, with a photographer who helped us out, Lizzie Mason, who is actually a food photographer, and she offered up her time at cost and photographed these really harrowing shots of people's Christmas dinners from past years. And then there's this really wonderfully sort of poignant copy, very stripped back, bare copy, very factual, not kind of trying to be overly emotive to capture what was going on in those people's lives at the time.
Yes.
And again, a bit like Migration Museum, this thing just sort of blew up, and we had a budget of 750 quid to make this happen. And we ended up raising £25,000 for the soup kitchen, which equates to 2,000 meals. And this small little soup kitchen was just overwhelmed, really, by the impact of this campaign. And then the Big Issue picked it up, ran it as an editorial piece in their Christmas edition. Giles Corran, the food critic, commented on, it just sort of took on a slight life of its own.
It's great. I'll read one of them out just so our listeners can understand. So it's got a very small plate, an even smaller can of beans. It just says, Wasser 56 baked beans opened by a supermarket assistant, ate them cold with a free wooden fork. And that, I imagine, is what happened.
Yes, yeah. They're all 100% factual, verbatim,
Yeah, and they're really well art directed, as in they sort of mimic that quite slightly considered photography of
a Waitrose meal,
exactly.
And then the sort of for me, the genius bit of this was that we then worked with a media company to run it alongside the really ostentatious food ads you get, Marks and Spencer's, the kind of dusting of icing, and then these ran alongside it as a sort of stark reminder of what, some people are going through. So the media side of this almost played into the idea as much as the idea itself, which is always lovely to see, when you've got that lovely handshake between media and idea.
Nice.
Brilliant, mate. Oh, God. I mean, I'm sorry we've rushed you a little bit, but there's so much good work. I'm very pleased I
especially love that, the stuff around Wonderhood Studios, that you've got that, there we go, I'll say it again, the maker mentality, the helping the community, and your place in the Soho community is at the heart of it, and helping at the church and the school and the soup kitchen.
Yes, I think it comes back to this neighbourhood thing, and there is a value exchange there, though, because by working with these people and helping them, as I said before, something always happens off the back of it. And, Father Simon loves the fact that we've then got a business in with the V&A. So we got the V&A off the back of doing the Sacred Grounds. The design studio got an amazing project from the V&A just from that connection. And something always leads to something else. And that's what creative momentum gives you, just that lovely kind of story and journey, when you make something. Yeah,
you kind of just got to do something. And if you, like you, I sort of think if you push hard enough in the universe, you get a pull from somewhere, and you just follow that.
Exactly.
So we're on to your favourite billboard. Spoiler alert: it's not Economist, everyone. I've got to say, this is one of my favourite ever.
Oh, brilliant!
Things. We have tried mercilessly to try and find the people who did this and get them on, but I've had no joy. So do you want to explain?
Yeah. So what we're looking at is one of, I think is this Stubbs? It must be Stubbs. It's a massive picture of a horse, a very famous painting.
Yes.
It's usually hung in the National Gallery, but it's been recreated and hung around Soho. So we're in the neighbourhood again, Soho, and I think that's what I love about this bit of camp. You can kind of see all the streets and recognise all the familiar places, and they've hung all the greatest paintings from the National Gallery out on the street. And what you get with the photography is this lovely coincidence between the everyday goings on the street and then this really high art it's sort of hung next to it.
But they've actually, I remember seeing this and never forgetting it. They obviously, it's not the original, but it's a piece of art.
Yes.
It's a frame, it's on the street.
It's exactly to scale. It's beautifully printed. It looks like the real piece that
I think it's done by.
And framed.
And framed. There's the same frame. It's like, it's been done really, really well.
But I think it's done by not an advertising agency, was it? Was it in a design company, or am I getting it? We should find out.
We should find out, yeah.
But I remember seeing it and going, fucking hell. I think it was like, I don't know if it was black pencil, but it was close to.
I think it is a black pencil, yeah. Because I remember.
Let's give it one.
When I was, when I was starting, this sort of happened as I was getting my first job and seeing this and just being so excited by it. And I think what I love about it, so the brief was people weren't going to the National Gallery that often. So let's put our best paintings out on the street, make it even more democratic for people to come and get inspired by this art. And it's sort of full circle. The reason why I love this as well is there was a quote from Sir John Hegarty around advertising not being art, but being an applied art. And that always really stuck with me. And I think we have a duty to create value when we make something and put it out in the world. And obviously we've got a job that is to sell, but equally we have a job not to kind of create, to create something lovely that people see and enjoy as well. And that's what's great about what we do. What we do is on show. So let's make it the best it can be. And I think this is...
Right, brilliantly. Well done for keeping talking as I was going on D&AD. So it was the partners did it, yeah? Hewlett-Packard was the client.
So it's about printing, that makes sense.
Yeah, the branding agency, the partners, the problem, how do you inspire a modern audience to visit the National Gallery? Solution, take the paintings, exactly what you say.
And are they a sponsor of the National Gallery as well then? Is that why?
Yeah, I suppose at the time.
So what you can't probably see is next to each painting is a plaque.
Yeah,
that will tell you a bit about the painting. Then it will do the sell for Hewlett-Packard.
Do you know what it reminded me of in a completely different way, but sort of similar? Was when Mother did Brit Art. Do you remember that?
Yes,
they did
the Mother idea.
A ticket or something, and you just go. It's so fucking simple. It doesn't need any explanation. You fill it in yourself, and it's just it's just really inspiring. It's because you don't see it's not overly branded. It's not telling you what to do. You have to lean in. Yeah. So thank you for that.
But it's interesting, isn't it? It's art becoming applied art.
Yeah.
Which is, the Sir John thing. So, yeah.
So any tips for our listeners? I mean, the whole talk, you've been amazing. So many little pearls of wisdom. Thank you so much. But it's been a fascinating journey. But is there any things you live by for outdoor? I mean, things.
It's the obvious things is simplicity and idea. A king. I think that the thing I am interested in, which is the first point about the King's Trust thing, is like just and it's I guess the theme of this, make it happen. Go out and look at your work and check it out, and do the hard sort of lifting on things. Go the extra mile, and because it is the creatives that really push it and go the extra mile that that work bubbles to the top. And I think beyond. I mean, there's been some amazing tips over the years on this show. I think beyond those really, really good things about the idea itself, I think the physicality of billboards, it requires you to go and look at it and see if it's working, I think. And
because it's
just a really good tip.
Just make that effort, I think.
We work in such a highly visual medium and public. Go and experience it, because everyone looks at videos of Piccadilly Circus, but you go down there and stand there and say, I could do this, I could do that, I could actually see it from here, I could do something different.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
I've spent a lot of time in New York over the last few years, and Times Square is, as you look at photos of it, it's a patchwork quilt of screens.
Yeah.
But if you can get something moving between screens, it enthuses a creative team. And I say that to my teams all the time. Get out there, go see your work, because you'll come up with a different angle on it.
Yeah. We've got this media opportunity in Leicester Square, which are the two very thin banners. And we've gone down and just sat there looking at it, working out what idea would fit best.
And watching people, right?
Watching people. Yeah. What's people's state of mind walking through Leicester Square? You've got commuters, so you really get a feel for the space, I think. And, obviously you can't do that if you've got 400 sites but I think you can take a snapshot.
The landmark ones.
Yeah, the landmarks, and then you can sort of be relatively confident that's going to be replicated.
Yeah.
It's a really great thing to end on, great tip, amongst all the others. So thank you so much for coming on. And
pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's been fun. Yeah.
Well, that was lovely, wasn't it?
That was really good. And it's nice to reminisce with them.
We're still going. Hey, it's Adrian, can you hear me? It's all right, no, we're doing
We're just doing the outro now. That was talkback in Hugh's ears. Adrian going, "Are you still fucking going?"
Story of my life. It's like Rach.
It's like Rachel phoning you. Are you still on that fucking podcast?
Fucking shut up. And he hasn't taken any drugs. Right. So that was...
It was brilliant. And Aidan, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
It's so good to hear about what's happening at Wonderhood. And it's really actually quite inspiring to hear the work they're doing in the community. Soho, you know, we're here in Soho Radio, fantastic location, and our podcast studio friends, Adrian, who's talking in Hugh's ear, telling him to hurry the fuck up.
But it was great just hearing, again, the point we do this show, the stories behind the work, really the amount of energy and love and craft goes in. And I think... you know, Aidan's and Wonderhood's such a force for good.
Yeah.
You know, it's been inspiring. Everything I've just nodded. I mean, it was quite a lot of football.
Yeah.
Has to be said.
Good. We like football.
We love football. So
we still haven't done that football special, though, by the way.
We will do a football special and our mum's special.
A mum's special.
Even though my mum's not around anymore.
No. We could get an impersonator in.
It was just like me, actually. Somebody talks a lot. But thanks to Talon, our sponsors.
And Grand Visual and our friends here at Soho Radio.
Yeah, it's been a lovely, lovely couple of days. Thank you.
Keep sharing it, guys. It's great to see the momentum online and to hear from you all socially. Momentum.
See you next time.
Next time.
Bye.